My name is Sophia Carter. I'm 29 years old, and until that night, I thought I understood exactly how relationships worked. I believed if you were patient enough, steady enough, grounded enough, you could build something real, something lasting. I was wrong. Daniel Reeves was 27, charming in that effortless way that made people trust him too quickly. The kind of man who could make a room feel warmer just by walking into it. For 3 years, I thought we were building something solid. Turns out, we were building something very different. It happened at an Italian restaurant downtown. Soft lighting, candles flickering just enough to make everything feel a little more romantic than it actually was. We were halfway through dinner when Daniel set his fork down, not casually,
deliberately.
"I need to tell you something," he said. I remember thinking it was going to be about the wedding. Maybe the venue, maybe a change in plans, something normal. Instead, he looked straight at me and said, "I've been testing you this entire relationship." I blinked. Not because I didn't hear him, but because my brain didn't know where to put that sentence. Testing me? How? I asked. And that's when he started listing them, like he'd been waiting for this moment. "Remember when I needed $2,100 for my friend's trip to Nashville?" he said, leaning back slightly. "That was a test." My stomach tightened. "When I asked you to help pay off my credit card?" he continued. "Test." I didn't say anything. "When I told you not to go to your mom's birthday because I needed you with me?" He nodded to himself, almost proud. "Test?" He smiled then, like this was impressive. "Everything was to see if you'd be a good partner," he said. "If you'd prioritize me. If you were serious about us." That was the moment something inside me shifted, because suddenly everything made sense. Not in a comforting way, in a cold, clinical way. We weren't building a relationship. We were building a scoreboard. The waiter came by with dessert. Something chocolate, expensive looking, carefully plated. He set it down between us, like it belonged there. Like anything about that moment was still normal. I didn't touch it. I didn't smile. I just looked at Daniel and asked, very calmly, "So, how did I do?" He hesitated, just for a second, like he expected me to react differently. "You failed," he said. Just like that. No hesitation, no softness. "Failed how?" I asked. He sighed, like I was missing something obvious. "You questioned the Nashville trip," he said. "You only paid part of my credit card. And you went to your mom's birthday anyway, after I asked you not to." Then he leaned back, crossing his arms. "You're too independent," he added. "I need someone who puts me first, without thinking." And there it was. Not anger. Not sadness.
Clarity.
Something settled in my chest.
Cold. Quiet. Final.
I nodded slowly. "Okay," I said. He blinked. I don't think he expected that. I reached for my phone, opened my notes app, turned the screen toward him. "Good thing I've been testing you too," I said. His face changed. Not dramatically, but enough. "What?" he asked. "You think you're the only one paying attention?" I said softly. He let out a short laugh. "That's insane." "Month 3, I continued, ignoring him. "When you threw a fit because I wouldn't leave work early to drive you to a nail appointment." His smile faded. I scrolled. "The Nashville trip," I said. "You wanted me to pay for your friend's party while you had over $3,000 in your savings account. I saw it when your banking app was open." His jaw tightened. "Test result," I continued. "Financial manipulation. You're twisting things," he snapped. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. "The credit card," I said. "You racked up almost $2,000 on clothes. Told me you couldn't make payments. I helped. 2 weeks later, you bought a $400 jacket." He opened his mouth, closed it again. "Test result," I said. "Financial irresponsibility, dishonesty." His eyes were sharper now, angrier. "My mom's birthday," I continued. "You pretended to be overwhelmed so I'd stay home. I went anyway. You were fine. You posted online all night." Silence. "Test result," I said. Emotional manipulation. He stared at me like he didn't recognize me anymore. "You've been documenting me?" he asked. "Yes," I said simply. "How many?" I met his eyes. 73 incidents. Over 34 months. The air between us felt different now. Heavy. "This is insane," he said, louder this time. I tilted my head slightly. "You wanted an overall score," I said. He didn't speak. "You failed," I finished. And then I added the part that changed everything. "I returned the ring yesterday morning." His face went still. "What?" "Got $7,800 back," I said. "Full refund." "You can't just—" "I already did," I said. I stood up, reached into my purse, pulled out cash, set it on the table. "My half," I said. He didn't move, didn't speak, just stared. "We're done, Daniel," I added. And then I walked away. I didn't feel powerful. I didn't feel brave. I felt calm, like my body had already made the decision for me weeks ago. Sometimes your nervous system gets tired of pretending something is normal. By the time I reached my car, my phone was already buzzing. Missed calls, messages,
Demands.
When I got home 20 minutes later, there were 14 missed calls. One text. "You're not breaking up with me like this. Come back." I typed one sentence. It wasn't over text. It was over dinner. Then I hit send, and everything changed. The first thing I did was not cry. That came later, much later. The first thing I did was move. Because there is a particular kind of fear that doesn't look like panic. It looks like efficiency. Daniel and I didn't live together, thank God. But he had a key to my apartment. He had things in my closet, things in my bathroom, things tucked into corners of my life like he had always planned to stay there. And he had access. Netflix, Spotify, HBO, my grocery delivery account, a shared photo album, my building guest code. All those small, casual connections people ignore until a breakup turns ugly. At 11:47 p.m., I called my friend Caleb, who happened to be a locksmith. "Can you come by tomorrow morning?" I asked. There was a pause. "How bad?" he said. "Bad enough that I don't want him having a key by sunrise." He didn't ask for details. 7 a.m., he said. After that, I changed every password I could think of. Streaming accounts, email recovery options, banking security questions, cloud storage. My phone kept buzzing while I worked. Daniel calling, Daniel texting,
Unknown number.
Daniel again. I turned the phone face down and kept going. Then I packed his things. It wasn't much, which somehow made it feel worse. A few shirts, toiletries, a hairdryer he insisted was better than mine, 2 books he never finished, a pair of sneakers under my bed. I put everything in 2 cardboard boxes by the door. At 12:31 a.m., he showed up. The pounding started so suddenly that I froze halfway across the living room. "Sophia!" he shouted. "Open the door!" My apartment, which had always felt quiet and safe, suddenly felt paper thin. I walked to the door and looked through the peephole. Daniel stood there in his dress shirt from dinner, sleeves rolled up, hair messy from running his hands through it. His face was flushed, angry, panicked.
Entitled.
"Sophia, open the door. We need to talk." I opened it with the chain still on. "No," I said. "We don't." His eyes flicked to the chain. That offended him. "You can't end 3 years like this," he said. "You ended it when you told me I failed your tests," I replied. "I'm just accepting your evaluation." His face twisted. "That's not fair." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because the word fair sounded ridiculous coming from him. I pointed down at the boxes. "Your stuff is packed. Take it." "I'm not taking anything," he snapped. "Let me in." "No. This is practically my apartment too." "No," I said again. "Your name is not on the lease. It never was. Having a key doesn't make this your legal residence." His mouth tightened. "You're being abusive." That word landed hard. For 1 second, I saw the old version of myself. The version who would have explained, defended, softened her tone. tried to prove she wasn't cruel, but that version had paid too much already. Using words you don't understand doesn't make them true, I said. His eyes darkened. Take your boxes or don't. The locks change at 7. Then I closed the door. He screamed outside for another 15 minutes. First anger, then pleading, then anger again. Sophia, don't do this. You're going to regret this. You're making a mistake. You're acting crazy. I stood in the hallway with my back against the wall, breathing quietly, refusing to answer. Eventually, he left. He did not take the boxes. At 7:03 a.m., Caleb arrived. By 7:41, I had new locks. It cost me $280, worth every penny. Caleb glanced at the boxes by the door, and then at my face. You okay? I almost said yes. Instead, I said, not yet. He nodded like that was a complete answer. The calls started again before noon. When I blocked Daniel's number, new ones appeared. You're throwing away what we had. My mom wants to talk to you. You embarrassed me. You don't get to decide this alone. That one made me stare at the screen for a long time, because that was the part he couldn't understand. I did get to decide. Leaving did not require permission. That afternoon, Daniel showed up again, this time with his mother and his sister. I watched them through my security camera. His mother, Patricia Reeves, stood closest to the door, arms folded tightly, lips pressed into a thin line. His sister Megan looked uncomfortable but loyal, glancing down the hallway like she knew this was wrong but had already chosen her side. They knocked for 10 minutes. I didn't answer. Patricia called me. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was long. Something about commitment. Something about young women giving up too easily. Something about how Daniel loved me and deserved a conversation. I saved it. Not because I wanted to listen again, because I was learning that documentation was not revenge. It was protection. That evening, Daniel's best friend texted me a paragraph about how cruel I had been, how Daniel was devastated, how humiliating him at a restaurant proved I wasn't ready for marriage. I replied once. He told me he had been secretly testing me for 3 years and said I failed. I told him the feeling was mutual. That isn't humiliation. That's honesty. No response. For 2 days, I heard nothing from Daniel directly. That silence should have felt peaceful. It didn't. It felt staged, like the quiet part in a horror movie when the camera holds too long on an empty hallway. On day 3, he showed up at my workplace. I worked for a small consulting firm. The kind where everyone knew everyone, but still tried to pretend personal life stayed outside the glass doors. Reception called my desk just after lunch. There's a man here claiming to be your fiancé, Jenna at the front desk said carefully. He says he has something urgent for you. My stomach went cold. Ex-boyfriend, I said. As of 3 days ago. I don't want to see him. Please ask security to have him leave. He's insisting. Of course he was. I went downstairs, not to talk to him, but to make sure security understood this was not welcome. Daniel stood in the lobby holding flowers. Roses, red ones. The kind men buy when they think romance can erase behavior. They weren't my favorite. He knew that. Or maybe he didn't. Maybe he had never paid attention to anything that didn't help him measure whether I was useful. Sophia, he said when he saw me. His voice cracked just enough for an audience. I could feel 3 coworkers looking over from the elevator bank. We need to talk. No, I said. You need to leave. His eyes filled quickly. Too quickly. You didn't fail, he said. I was wrong. I was scared. I held up my hand. Stop. He froze. You told me your honest assessment, I said. I believed you. Now leave my workplace. But I love you. You love the idea of someone who funds your life, manages your emotions, and apologizes for having boundaries, I said. That's not me. His expression flickered. For just 1 second, the sadness disappeared. Something colder showed underneath. Then he remembered we had an audience. Sophia, please, he whispered. I turned to the guard. Please escort him out. Daniel's face changed again.
Humiliation.
Rage.
Fear. All tangled together. "You're doing this in front of everyone?" he said. "You showed up uninvited," I replied. "You did this." He left, but not before turning at the door and saying loudly, "You'll be sorry." The lobby went silent. That night, I got a Venmo request. $4,500. Description: emotional damages, time wasted, and half the ring cost. I stared at it for a full minute. Then I screenshot it, saved it.
Declined.
30 minutes later, another request came in. $6,000. Description: you owe me for 3 years.
Declined.
Blocked. After that, his family came harder. Megan called from a blocked number. I answered because I was tired and made the mistake of thinking maybe someone had found reason. "You need to fix this," she said immediately. "He's falling apart." "What exactly am I supposed to fix?" I asked. He didn't mean it like that. He told me he spent 3 years testing me. He was trying to communicate his needs. I closed my eyes. "No," I said. "He lied. He created fake crises. He manipulated me. That is not communication." Megan scoffed. "Everyone tests their girlfriend. Then everyone can deal with their girlfriend leaving when she finds out." "You're being dramatic." "No," I said. "I'm being done." Then her voice dropped, and this was the first moment I felt real fear. Not of Daniel, of the trap. "He might hurt himself," she said. I went very still, because that is not something you ignore. But it is also not something you allow someone to use as a leash. "If you genuinely believe Daniel is a danger to himself," I said carefully, "call emergency services." "Sophia, but you are not going to guilt me into taking back someone who spent years lying to me." Then I hung up. My hands were shaking after that. Not because I doubted myself, because manipulation works best when it borrows the shape of compassion. 2 days later, Patricia came to my apartment building. She waited in the lobby until someone let her in. Then she came to my door and knocked for 20 minutes. I didn't answer. Eventually, she started yelling through the door. "My son is broken because of you." I stood in my kitchen, phone in hand, recording. "You broke his heart over nothing." I called building security. "There's a woman in the hallway harassing me," I said. "She doesn't live here. Please remove her." They escorted Patricia out while she shouted down the hall. Every neighbor heard. I know they did. That night, I sat on my living room floor beside Daniel's abandoned boxes and realized something ugly. This was not grief anymore. This was escalation. And escalation does not stop because you are kind. It stops when consequences become real. 3 days after his mother was escorted out of my building, things crossed a line I didn't even realize we were approaching. Daniel filed a police report. He claimed I had stolen jewelry from him, specifically a gold necklace with an emerald that supposedly belonged to his grandmother. When the officers knocked on my door, it was just after 9 a.m. I remember standing there, coffee still in my hand, trying to process the shift from uncomfortable breakup to something that involved law enforcement. "Ms. Carter?" the older officer asked. "Yes." "We have a report that you're withholding personal property belonging to Mr. Daniel Reeves." There was a pause, a quiet moment where I could have panicked. Instead, I stepped aside and opened the door wider. "Everything he left is still here," I said, gesturing toward the 2 boxes that had not moved since the night he refused to take them. "You're welcome to look." They did.
Carefully. Methodically.
Shirts, toiletries, books, shoes, no necklace. The younger officer glanced at his partner. "She's claiming it's a gold chain with an emerald pendant." "I've never seen anything like that," I said. "Because it doesn't exist here." The older officer studied my face. "Why would he file a report like this?" "Because I broke up with him," I replied. "And he's escalating." The younger officer pulled out his phone. "Let's just check something," he said. A few taps later, he turned the screen toward his partner. There it was. A photo posted 2 days earlier. Daniel's grandmother, wearing the exact necklace. The older officer exhaled slowly. "All right," he said. "We're not pursuing this. This looks like a false report." He turned back to me. "If he continues this behavior, you should consider documenting everything." After they left, I stood in the doorway for a long time because something had shifted again. This wasn't emotional anymore. It was strategic.
Calculated.
And that made it more dangerous. I texted Daniel once from a secondary number. His response came almost immediately. I don't know what you're talking about. I stared at the message. Then I screenshotted it, saved it, and didn't reply. At that point, I had a decision to make. Ignore it and hope it faded, or accept what it had become. Week 2 answered that for me. Daniel created a fake email account, used my name, and sent a message to my boss. It said I was dealing with serious personal instability and might need time off, that I was not mentally fit for client-facing responsibilities. My boss called me into his office that afternoon. He didn't look angry. He looked confused. "Did you send this?" he asked, turning his screen toward me. I read it once, then again. Every word felt like a violation. "No," I said calmly. "That's not my email format. Look at the sender." It was obvious. A Gmail address with my name and random numbers.
Cheap. Sloppy.
But still dangerous. "Who would do this?" he asked. "My ex-boyfriend," I said. "We broke up 2 weeks ago. He's been escalating." He leaned back in his chair. "Do you have proof?" I didn't hesitate. I opened my phone and started sending. The Venmo requests, the police report, the screenshots of texts from different numbers, the security footage timestamps, the voicemail from his mother, everything. My boss watched in silence. Then he forwarded it to HR. That afternoon, I got a call. "We're documenting this as harassment," the HR representative said. "If he contacts your workplace again, we will pursue legal action." It should have felt like relief. And it did, a little. But Daniel wasn't finished. He started leaving reviews on my consulting business page. 1-star ratings, 7 in 2 days. Different accounts, same tone.
Emotionally abusive. Unprofessional.
Took my money and disappeared. I reported them. It took time, but they were eventually removed. Then his friends joined in. 5 different messages in 1 day. All variations of the same accusation. "You hurt him. You owe him an apology. You're not telling the full story." I didn't respond until one of them made it public. A Facebook post calling me a narcissist, tagging me, tagging my family. That's when I understood something important. Silence only works when the other person respects truth. Daniel didn't. So I responded.
Calmly. Directly.
I commented under the post. I explained what happened at dinner. The tests, the financial demands, the manipulation, the false police report, the fake email, the harassment. Then I attached screenshots. Not everything, just enough. Within an hour, the tone shifted. Comments changed. Questions started. Doubt crept into their narrative. By the next day, the post was gone. But Daniel kept going. He started showing up at my gym, not to work out,
To watch.
The first time, I thought it was coincidence. The second time, I knew it wasn't. He stood near the cardio machines, pretending to scroll his phone, while glancing up every few seconds, waiting for eye contact, for a reaction. I finished my workout early and went to management. "That man is my ex," I said. "He's here to follow me." The manager looked uncomfortable. "Unless he approaches you or breaks rules, we can't remove him," he said. "He's a member." Of course he was. He had joined the day before. I canceled my membership that night. Paid $89 to break the contract. Worth it. I joined a new gym across town. 3 days later, Daniel showed up there too. That was the moment something inside me went completely still. Not fear.
Recognition.
This was not a breakup anymore. This was stalking. I walked out mid-workout. Didn't finish. Didn't look back. Went straight home and opened my laptop. Because there are moments when you realize kindness is no longer the right response. Protection is. I called my cousin Ava. She's a lawyer. Smart. Direct. The kind of person who doesn't waste words. "I think I need a restraining order," I said. There was no hesitation on her end. "Tell me everything," she said. So I did. The police report. The fake email. The workplace visit. The reviews. The gym. The texts. The family. The escalation. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "You have a pattern. That's what we need." Over the next 2 days, we built it. A binder. Tabs.
Timeline.
Screenshots. Printed messages. Call logs. Security footage. Timestamps. Everything organized.
Clear. Undeniable.
When I filed, the court granted a temporary restraining order immediately. Daniel was not allowed to contact me. Not directly, not indirectly, not at all. It felt like the first real breath I had taken in weeks. It lasted less than 24 hours. He showed up at my office building. Again. Security called the police this time. I watched from the second floor as they walked him out. This time, there were no flowers, no performance, just anger. He didn't look at me, didn't say my name, but I could feel it. The shift. The loss of control. And that made him more dangerous than anything else so far. He was arrested for violating the order. And that's when I knew this wasn't going to end quietly. It was going to end in court. The hearing was set for the following week. 7 days that felt longer than the 3 years I had spent with Daniel. Not because I was afraid of him anymore, but because I understood something now that I hadn't before. People like Daniel don't stop when they lose. They escalate when they realize they've lost control. The morning of the hearing, I woke up before my alarm. Not anxious, not panicked, just alert.
Clear.
Like every instinct in my body had aligned for one purpose. Finish this. I dressed simply. Neutral colors, no statement pieces. No armor. I didn't need to prove anything with how I looked. I already had everything that mattered in a black binder sitting on my kitchen table. Evidence. Facts. Truth. Ava met me outside the courthouse. She took one look at my face and nodded. "You're ready," she said. "I have to be," I replied. Inside, the air felt heavy in that specific way courtrooms always do. Like every word spoken there carries weight, whether you want it to or not. Daniel was already there, with his mother. And a lawyer. He looked different, tired, unshaven. His usual confidence dulled into something strained and brittle. For a split second, I saw the version of him I used to care about. Then I remembered the police report, the fake email, the gym, and the feeling passed. When the judge entered, everything snapped into place.
Order. Structure. Consequence.
Daniel went first. "Your Honor," he began, voice unsteady in a way that might have sounded sincere if I hadn't heard him rehearse emotions before. "We were together for 3 years. I love her. She ended things suddenly, and I was just trying to get closure."
Closure.
That word again. Used like a disguise. Ava stood when it was our turn. "Your Honor, may we present evidence?" she asked. The judge nodded. She handed over the binder. And then silence. 10 minutes. That's how long the judge read. 10 minutes that stretched endlessly, filled only by the soft sound of pages turning. I didn't look at Daniel. I didn't need to. I could feel his attention on me. Heavy. Searching. Still expecting something. An opening. A weakness. An invitation. There was none. Finally, the judge closed the binder and looked directly at Daniel. "Mr. Reeves," he said, voice measured but firm, "you admitted to conducting tests throughout this relationship." Daniel shifted in his seat. "That was taken out of context. And after the relationship ended," the judge continued, cutting him off, "you filed a false police report regarding stolen jewelry." "That was a misunderstanding. You sent a fraudulent email impersonating Miss Carter to her employer." Daniel's lawyer placed a hand on his arm, a quiet signal. "Stop talking." The judge didn't pause. "You appeared at her workplace after being told not to. You followed her to multiple locations. And you violated a temporary restraining order within 24 hours of its issuance." Each sentence landed like a weight, not emotional.
Factual. Unavoidable.
The judge turned to me. "Miss Carter, do you have a credible fear for your safety?" "Yes, Your Honor," I said. My voice didn't shake. "He has shown a pattern of escalation. He interfered with my work. He followed me. He refuses to accept that the relationship is over. I don't know what he will do next. The judge held my gaze for a moment, then nodded once. Restraining order granted, he said. The words felt quiet, but final. 2 years, no contact, direct or indirect, 500 yards distance at all times. Any violation will result in immediate arrest and potential criminal charges. Daniel's breath caught. I heard it, even without looking. The judge wasn't finished. Mr. Reeves, he added, this behavior is not romantic. It is not persistence. It is harassment.
Silence.
You are fortunate Miss Carter is not pursuing further charges regarding the false police report. Daniel said nothing. Move on, the judge said. This ends now. The gavel came down, and just like that, it did. Outside the courtroom, Daniel's mother tried to approach me. Ava stepped in front of her without hesitation. The order includes you, she said calmly. Stay back. Patricia's face twisted with anger. She's ruining his life, she snapped. Ava didn't blink. He did that himself. For a second, it looked like Patricia might argue. Then something in Ava's expression made her stop. They turned and walked away, and I stood there, breathing. Not deeply, not dramatically, just normally, for the first time in weeks. That was 6 weeks ago. I haven't heard from Daniel since. Not a call. Not a message. Nothing. And the silence now feels real. I heard through mutual connections that he moved back to his hometown, living with his parents, working a job that has nothing to do with the life he used to present. His friend group fractured after everything came out. The same people who defended him stepped back when they saw the evidence. One of them even apologized.
Privately.
Admitted they had only heard his version. I didn't respond. Not out of anger. Just closure. My work stabilized. HR documented everything. My boss respected how I handled it. And my business recovered. Those fake reviews disappeared. The truth tends to do that eventually. As for me, I took the $7,800 from the ring refund and used it as a down payment on a condo. My name, my space, my rules. No spare keys floating around. No unexpected knocks at midnight. No walking on eggshells in my own home. I also started therapy, not because I was broken, but because 3 years of slow manipulation changes the way you hear your own instincts. It teaches you to doubt yourself, second-guess your boundaries, explain things that should never need explaining. I didn't want to carry that forward. Last week, I went on a date. It was simple, calm. No tests, no hidden expectations, just conversation. And for the first time in a long time, it felt easy, normal, safe. There was one message I didn't expect. It came from Megan, Daniel's sister. I didn't believe you at first, she wrote. But watching everything these past weeks, I get it now. You weren't wrong. I'm sorry. I read it once, then closed the message. Too late doesn't mean meaningless, but it also doesn't mean access. And that was something I finally understood. Here's what I learned. Sometimes the most dangerous people aren't loud at the beginning. They're subtle. They push boundaries slowly, then blame you for noticing. Documentation matters. Not for revenge, for protection. I didn't have to destroy Daniel's reputation. He did that himself. All I did was tell the truth and keep records. I returned the ring, but I kept the receipt, framed it, hung it in my home office. $7,800. A small price for clarity, a smaller price for freedom. If someone tells you they're testing you, believe them. The first time, because love is not a series of traps you have to survive, and boundaries are not cruelty, they are safety. So let me ask you something. If you had been sitting at that dinner and someone told you they had been testing you for 3 years, what would you have done? And if they refused to let go after you walked away, how long would you wait before you chose yourself?